Hello and welcome to Monday, April 20th, 2026 Historical Preservation Board regular meeting. My name is Carolina Torres. I'm standing in for our regular chair, Daniel Olson. Does anybody want to open?
I motion to open the meeting.
I second the motion.
Okay.
Member Torres,
Aye.
member Ruth,
Aye.
member McRae,
Aye.
motion passes.
Okay. Does anyone have a reason to recuse themselves or a conflict of interest to disclose?
No?
Oh,
No.
Thank you.
Okay. So should we start with 7 Shone Place?
Yes, and that applicant is Viviana today. Steve, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hey, Steve. Hi,
How
Steve.
are you doing today?
Great. How are you doing?
Doing good, doing good. So as you can see, we have our sign permit in for 7 Showing Plates, place for Treats and Treasures. We have a 48-inch width by 36-inch height, external grade PVC backer board that will be faced with a digital print with UV protective laminate, and that will represent the wood grain in the sign. The logo, the box with the bread and the satchel, and then the Treats and Treasures, those will be raised letters as well. They will be made from the same media, the external grade PVC as the rest of the sign. They will be stud mounted to that board. And that is pretty much the ins and outs of our sign here for Treats and Treasures. Oh, and I should mention, we do plan to mount the sign to the building through the face of the sign using mechanical screws, and making sure that that sign is secured to the building.
Great. Any questions?
so you're saying it's like a second layer of PVC acrylic on top of the first layer to give it depth?
Correct.
Okay. And then are you selling purses, bread, and ornaments?
I'm not selling anything. I'm the sign vendor. I couldn't tell you exactly what they're selling inside the store. I would believe it would be some type of gift shop, so to speak.
Okay.
It's a pop-up shop for that location.
Oh, okay.
I appreciate the fact that the sign is the same width as the windows below it. I
Yeah.
think that's a nice placement and sizing for the sign.
I agree.
And it actually appears to be smaller than the one that was in the photo provided
Yeah.
from a previous, the hair barn from
Yeah, I like it better.
it's more discreet. So
Do they plan to put a light, on the
I
sign?
can't, unfortunately, I can't speak to that. I'm not sure. Her and I had, I only recently, as in, I think Friday afternoon, got the photograph of the previous sign. So, I wasn't aware that there was a light there previously. But unfortunately, I can't really speak to if they are going to put a light. I mean, it looks as if I zoom in on the photograph that we took here, 1 minute, give me one moment here.
That's what I was it looks like there's something there, so I didn't know if there was already a light there or.
Yep, I'm just gonna dive into my survey pictures real quick.
Okay.
Yes, it does look like there is a gooseneck fixture that is there currently on the building.
Okay. All right, the only question I had was that because if they want to put a light and there isn't one there, they need to permit that. I mean, they need to ask. So we're just gonna talk about the sign and discuss the approval of the sign only today.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
What I found in the code that seemed relevant was it made the statement should convey only a essential message and not display excessive advertising. Should be the name of the business and a brief descriptor. think, does that satisfy that picture?
Yeah, I think so.
That's,
Absolutely, yeah, very simple.
okay. Okay, it's within the size limits for the amount of frontage.
Yeah.
It seems discreet and stylistically, goes with the barn that it's in.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, does anyone want to make a motion?
I motion to approve the sign as presented.
All right, a second.
Member McRae,
Yes?
member Torres,
Yes.
member Ruth,
I,
motion passes.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Thank you for your time. Have a great night.
You too.
Okay, so 19 Bolton. Justin, hi.
In fact, regarding, I've come before the board a couple of times regarding this, and I supplemented the application with additional information.
Okay.
So, I was hoping to have everything pretty complete, so you could evaluate it and
Okay.
again, take questions.
Just want to double check with you, just real quick. So the last time when you came, what was missing, I guess, was just the specific window,
I did not have that table right in front of you.
Yeah.
I did not have submitted.
right?
And I was still evaluating options. At the time, I believe I came before, I was considering Colby wood windows and I switched to Marvin wood windows.
Okay,
I think both are, the preferred solutions.
yes,
Even Jordan likes, the two of those in his window look.
Yeah.
I've been not happy with the support I get from the Colby. I can't get people to repair them. And I think the operability of the Marvin ones would be better, so, and I do believe, I haven't directly compared them, I think they look nearly identical from the outside.
and just to confirm, I had on my notes, you're not planning to change any of the lights or anything, it's they
No,
replacing
I'm
like
trying to keep it
canes and.
looking identical.
Yeah.
And but making it functional, I mean, that's the goal, keep the character, keep the look, but make them work.
Yeah.
And so I mentioned in there, I try to pay a lot of attention to the trim details, for example, making a true 4-inch width
Yeah.
instead of 3.5.
Right.
Duplicating the windowsill details. And I had the pictures in there of my prior carpenters did an excellent job of matching it. So you can't really tell the difference.
Okay.
I do not know which exterior trim needs to be replaced on all of them, or my guess is it probably will be, because it's going to be probably a slight difference in size
Yeah,
of the new ones, so it's gonna have to be compensated for in the trim and maybe patching up the siding with matching wood siding as much as possible. But the prior ones were replaced, even on the original siding. The previous round did not involve original windows. All of them were aftermarket windows installed different times, different styles. My carpenter put them in before, they didn't have to do any patching up of the siding. They were able to just get them in there, size them, work with the trim and make it work.
okay. And then I think when we met last time, you weren't 100% sure about the skylights and the size.
Starlight, so it's already been done.
Oh, they're, okay,
It
so,
may have not been done. Meeting.
Okay. all right,
Pretty in, they look nice, haven't had a single complaints about the skylights, haven't had any comments about the solar panels either.
excellent, okay, all right.
I know those were
Mhm.
some concerns among this board about both of them, but.
Okay,
Have I go need some water?
That'd be lovely.
Okay, I'll go get it.
But as you hopefully have seen, I'm trying to put solid applications before you, try to follow keeping things looking historic around here and maintaining the character of the house while modernizing it for contemporary needs.
right,
So that's the goal that I'm trying to bring up everything and bring it before you.
okay, I don't have any more questions if you guys have questions.
You know, and just in reviewing Blake Held's comments, he says that they're all acceptable, the modifications that you presented. So I don't have a problem with them.
Thank you.
They look real rough in the pictures.
Yeah.
It seems believable.
So many of them are non-workable or distorted.
I don't understand, what I've learned not to ask those questions. When my house was originally built, it was, The builder did not live there. It was built and used as a rental for the first number of decades that the house listed in. The houses on Fountain Avenue, were often built and used for factory workers that were in the village at the time in various places. So I just had no idea what goes on. I had so many questions, like why is my garage floor at fault? I don't know. It'd be nice if it was concrete. But I'll just call the original windows, I'll just call them landlord grade windows. They're not even up to builder grade. I mean, they are wood. It's just, it looks like, they chose things for economy at the time rather than getting ones with the ropes and the pulleys and all of that. So that's my presumption, but I want to get the look and make them work.
Yeah, it seems like you're improving the house.
Yes, that's my goal, yeah.
Okay. So the application that's in here, it says skylights, windows, see attached letter. So that was previous.
Skylights
Five.
were previous.
Already approved, yeah.
Okay.
So in the original application, I had put for there, I was applying for two things, windows and skylights. The subsequent meeting, the skylight was resolved and the windows were left open.
I think we were waiting for just some spec sheets and things like that on the windows, so which he's got now, so. Okay, well, anybody wanna?
I
Motion,
have a question.
okay,
How are you going to deal with the windows that Mr. Held says can be repaired? Because our code is very strict. Exterior architectural features shall be repaired rather than replaced whenever possible. So we have to develop findings around replacing the ones that Mr. Held thinks can.
Well, I can address that. I would say that is not a requirement, and I will refer you to the Village of Pittsburgh's historic design standards and started on windows.
I started with code, which is very clear.
That is not in the zoning code.
It's in the HPV code, which was section 112.6B2H. And it says specifically that. Exterior architectural features shall be repaired rather than replaced whenever possible.
So, but he's talking about windows that are non-operational, they don't have sashes, they don't have any.
I'm sorry, I interrupted.
That's my understanding is.
But I'm going by what Mr. Held said in his report, that they are repairable.
They were never operational, so I don't know what he's saying about them being repaired.
There's a number of them in here that are repairable.
Well, he said a number of them couldn't be repaired or replaced.
Right, but a number wouldn't, well, okay, then it's an alternative.
But he often says is acceptable or advisable to replace them.
Yeah,
So
That's what I-
That's not following the code, so you have to say in your finding
okay,
why they must be repaired, replaced rather than repaired as possible.
okay.
So if I can address Mr. Turner's concerns, first of all, I disagree with Mr. Turner, that is a requirement. It is listed
Are you
in
saying the code doesn't require that?
You're interrupting me, Mr. Turner. Can I please present myself? It is listed as a consideration, not a requirement, 112.6.2. In applying the principles of compatibility, the board shall consider the following factors. That is where this is. It doesn't say these are required. It shall be, you can consider it. And my suggestion is to consider it along with the rehabilitation standard. This is out of the section 5 rehabilitation standards in historic code, the historic preservation standards. And it says rehabilitation is a practical approach to historic preservation in the process of repairing or altering an historic building for efficient contemporary use while retaining its historic features. And that is exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to apply the rehabilitation standard, not the preservation standard. The village code has never said, nor has the design standards, that these buildings are so exceptionally pristine that every detail must be preserved as it is. So what I'm trying to do is rehabilitate these windows to bring them up to efficient contemporary use, and adding additional functionality, which I've enumerated in there, I'm not looking to preserve the original functionality of what they were put in, which actually they were non-functional. And so then the historic preservation standard says that even minor rehabilitation projects should not proceed without first identifying the character defining features of the historic building. The retention of these features should be an important consideration throughout the rehabilitation process. So I've done exactly that. I found the trim details using the wood windows, all and trying to replicate everything to the best I possibly can while gaining the newer functionality and updating things to contemporary use expectations.
So I'm going to tell you, that's not an opinion. It's what the code says. Mr. Ruiz just read it. Shall consider the following, and it's a shall not be replaced. Shall.
Okay.
I'm gonna repeat.
So can I just say, so from what I read from Blake Held's comment and your letter, you have windows that it's not just that they're no longer operational, it's that they were never operational. These windows don't have the mechanism that allows them to be raised. They don't have ropes, they don't have gullies for the ropes. They don't, at some point, somebody raised them and put a stick or something to hold them up or something. They're like super cheap, whatever. So they never had that functionality to begin with. And so what you're proposing to do is to replace them with windows that are operational.
Correct. So stripping the paint and doing repairs is not going to fix the functionality problem, because it'll restore them to as they were before, which still didn't function. They're not going to open. So if I was to keep the existing sashes or something like that, you're looking at rebuilding and redesigning the entire window. And which again is not a repair, that's how much of this.
You'd have to take all the trim off and redo the windows completely.
Would be redoing the windows.
And I think that would be more damaging than replacing.
Well, then what I would ask is for clarification from Blake about this whole issue, because right now we're stuck with a report that says they can't be repaired. Many of them. I mean, for instance, the top of the page, 2 of his report, used units possibly could be repaired. That says to me that a repair is possible.
Though the next sentence, those as replacement with similar units would be acceptable.
Correct, but it doesn't say that it's required.
It does say preferably repair,
And that
replace it.
That means there's an option, which means you're allowing a replacement that may not be necessary. Which is absolutely against the code.
I disagree that it's not necessary. If
Well-
you're gonna make people have houses that don't function because they originally didn't function, doesn't make any sense.
At any rate, your disagreement is not with me or the board, it's with Mr. Held.
I mean, I read this as he's saying they could possibly be repaired. The replacement with similar units as those on the first floor addition would be acceptable.
Right.
So he's
So
saying
somebody-
acceptable to replace them.
Somebody came in on the Phoenix building and said, this is really hard to repair these, we're gonna replace them all. That's what you're setting yourself up for.
I'm gonna also add that Mr. Held was acting on behalf of the village, not myself. So this was not an applicant telling you this. This was not the applicant's architect telling you this. This was your own expert witness. And I understand that there could be some questions about it. My reading of it is he found either option could be acceptable because they both preserve the character of the house. And I also would say the only actual most critical criteria you have in your review standards is not the one Mr. Turner read. Let me get the citation here. It was 112.6A. Certificate of appropriateness general criteria. The board shall approve the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness only if it determines the work will not have a substantial adverse impact on the aesthetic, historical, or architectural significance and value of the property itself, district, or neighboring properties in such district. So I think the only, it's completely acceptable for you to say that with the application before you, significant effort has been paid towards preserving the significant character of these architectural elements.
Yes, and he
satisfy
says
that
they
criteria.
would be acceptable since the units replicate the sightlines, material and appearance of style and rail construction. So he's saying that it meets that criteria here.
Sure.
They are,
And that would be true if they were not repaired.
well, he says they would possibly be repaired. I mean,
Well,
so
that's
are
what you
we,
got, but the problem is that's what you got in the record. If there was anything different in the record, like I would never repair these in a million years, so Mr. Held, then you can pin your head on that. But right now, you got nothing to hang your hat on regarding replacement.
other than their non-functional windows,
Well, but they can be restored to what they originally were.
but they originally were not functional windows.
Well, okay, but he says they're repairable. I'm only worried about the record.
Yeah,
I don't care what the board does. I'm worried about the record and setting a precedent for future applications.
Well, can I interject then if the precedent is to replace a non-functional window, I think that's a good precedent. If the window
Yeah.
is found to be non-workable and
And
it doesn't function, you can't open it or it's warped or something, I think that's a reasonable reason to replace a window.
you're not freezing things on time, but again, to argue against
It's
Mr. Turner, I would say that to deny this, you need to bring some type of statement that would find that this is a substantial adverse impact to the aesthetic, historical, or architectural significance of value of the property. The minor changes, major change would do that. I don't see anything how you can claim that to this effect. So if Mr. Turner is gonna argue you have a findings, you could say you can't approve it, and you can't deny it. So where are we at?
Then we go to the code where it says you don't replace something that can be repaired. That's the problem, is that you have the only expert record. And if Mr. Bleitzer wants to get an expert who can say that Mr. Held's dead wrong, and you want to agree with that expert, that's totally fine. I just want you to have something in the record that will support replacement rather than repair. Neither one is probably going to have an adverse impact on the property, to Mr. Bleach's point. However, when that's true, then A doesn't apply, and you go down to H, which says you can't do it.
I would disagree with that is if it doesn't have an adverse impact, then you can approve it.
Neither has an adverse impact that you go with what the code says, which is repair rather than replace.
So reading through this again, looking at it, it does look like section 1, he's clearly saying preferred is to replace.
Yeah. Yeah,
Two.
you got something in the record to do that.
2, he says these units possibly could be repaired. 3, he says preferably repair. But the kitchen window, the board may reasonably decide it should be repaired. And then 5, he didn't review. It's small and distant from the street.
That was one I already had permission to replace.
You have permission to replace that.
It's not part of the application.
So
Well, part of the application is switching the window type. I had permission to replace it with a Colby window, and I'm seeking to replace it with a Barton window.
Yeah.
And just for clarification, all of these windows, that little attic window, I was gonna use a replacement window for that to put inside that and keep all the exterior frame as it is, because doing anything else would be a nightmare. All the other windows, proposals not to use so-called replacement windows, but to put in new windows. So it's not shrinking the size of the opening, and it's just gonna look like a new window, just like the original one. So it's gonna be pulling off trim and then inserting a new window.
So the issue is 2 and 3, because 1, 4, and 5, he's recommending that you replace, so. Does that create an adverse effect if you have mismatched windows where you repair 3 and 4? And replace 2 and 3 and replace 1 and 5 and 3, which ones?
Yeah, I would absolutely say that would be the case is.
But if they're the same, shouldn't. They have a similar profile and they're the same. Shouldn't create any adverse impact.
And to quote a section of the code. In the village design standards, it does say deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced.
Mhm.
And it goes on to say, if it's so deteriorated, it requires replacement, then it should match the old. Etc. Page 120.
All right, well, what do you guys?
I mean, Mr. Belize is entitled to have a full board here. Make this decision.
Well,
You have to get 3 votes for an approval, correct?
or denial.
Mhm.
Okay.
So so if it's a mixed opinion here, then it's no action taken. Still pending for you. That's my understanding.
You can ask the applicant if he would like for you guys to take a vote, and if it fails, then he could come back for full board.
Can we approve some of the windows and not others? Like you said,
Yeah, I mean, you guys make a motion.
So if there are concerns about if keeping some particular windows, which ones are you thinking about?
Well, I'm just reading through what Blake has said. There's some where he's definitely recommending replacement, and there's others where he's recommending that there's the possibility that they could be repaired, which means you have to, try to get somebody to repair them.
Yeah, so the only other adage I'll add is in order to get someone to repair them, you also have to have a certain size job for them to come and do it. When I talked to the guy and I'd have to see what his current requirements person, Mount Morris. He was at something like 7 or 8 windows minimum before he even considered doing it.
Mhm.
So and there's, if you were to say, no, you can't. I need a solution here. So that saying you can keep 2 of them, you repair 2 of them and replace the others. That doesn't get me toward the solution. So, and as I said, when any of these have deteriorating wood, they could be repaired, but then how long are they going to last before they get damaged and further rotting? 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah.
I'm not putting the amount of money to repair these. Factoring in replace is astronomical if that was to be done.
Mhm.
I did get some pricing on it. That didn't even include replacing the storm windows. So storm windows are not particularly attractive. I'd like to do that. So we're talking new car money for, possibly a nice new car money for 8 windows. If that comes down to 4 windows, 3, whatever it is, I don't have an option to do that.
Well, that would be a hardship application.
There is no such thing as a hardship application.
It's in the code.
I need to get a use variance. There's no way that anyone can ever comply with the hardship requirement.
There's a hardship requirement set forth in the HPV code.
It says I have to show that I can't properly use my property. It's not the use of my property, it's repairing my windows, but anyway.
But that would be a second application. You gotta decide this one on the merits.
Okay, so the option is you can ask us to take a vote right now. And then if you don't like the outcome, you have an option to get another architect to look at your windows. Or get Blake to look at your windows again, and we can have a conversation. We can actually go with you to the house and Blake and discuss the windows. That's an option. Because I don't think Blake has in consideration, that, okay, well, maybe 2 or 3 out of the 8 windows get replaced, or, any of that kind of conversation that we just had wasn't probably his thinking. I don't know how else to frame this conversation, but if you don't like the outcome of the vote today, is you have the right to come back when we have the full board and 5 people and have another vote.
So, I mean, you guys are calling the shots here. If you think you all agree that replacing all of these is fine, or if you want to say replacing certain windows is fine, that's one thing. If you have open concerns, you want to talk to Blake. I think that's your option.
Well, they're not calling the shots, it's your application. We ask for a vote. Or not.
An important pointer for me is that if it's a quality window, it's worth preserving. If it was not a quality window, never been a quality window, and it's just getting worse, that's different. I mean, I'm all about preserving quality structures, but if something isn't quality and is never going to be quality, no matter how much you try to sand it and, shore it up, that's a different story to
But
me.
that's not
Yeah.
the code says.
It doesn't differentiate between quality and not quality.
No, it doesn't.
Say that this is a rehabilitation application, not a preservation application. So leaning on the rehabilitation standards, and again, there's a long list of stuff for you to consider. And they're just that, considerations.
You can't make a first out of a sows here.
What other argument would you have against? Declining it based on the rule here. Of deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced. Is there anything different about the window that you would argue like is there, are these not original windows in some way?
Some of them are not. The one in front, I do not know if it's original or not. It is quite different than almost all the others. There's one of them that's in an addition on the house. And it's certainly not original. Play with one. Not original. Let's go and look here. Windows C, I'm not sure if it's original or not. But quite different from others. And window F is on an addition, so it's definitely not an original window. Window L, I have no idea what that is. That looks like something that like it's some little half of a window stuck at the top of stairwell. I seriously doubt that was an original window for the house. I can't prove it one way or the other.
Yeah, I guess I would say, as Jeff has coached a little bit here, I think,
I'm not coaching, I'm just telling you what code says and what
yeah,
precedent does.
I mean, I can see the verbiage plain as day saying should be repaired rather than replaced.
Can you repeat that?
In page 120 of the code, it says deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced. And then it only talks about if the severity of the deterioration requires replacement. Skip it over a little bit. A new feature shall match the old design, color, texture, and other visual qualities where possible. And where possible, materials. Page 120. That seems pretty straightforward, and rereading the architect's report, it does seem like in a few places he is saying they can be repaired. And I think it's our job to interpret what is in the standards the best we can to what we have. So without something else to say that we should, approve it, then I would say I have issue with that. If we vote right now.
So four of the windows are possibly repairable. He said, and two and 3.
Which one, what I'm trying to figure out.
Two of the 3 second floor windows are possibly repairable. And on the south side, 2 of the second floor windows are again
On the south side of the house,
preferably repairable.
2 of the second floor windows.
That's just four of all the windows suggested.
And the kitchen windows. So it's something that should be repaired or could be repaired according to.
Operationally, it makes sense to replace it because
Keep reading.
At the top of the second page, it says these units possibly could be repaired.
no, I was reading the kitchen window down here, down here where it says,
I have to bother you guys, 'cause we're starting to whisper and I'm not getting the
Oh,
closed
sorry.
caption, I'm so sorry, but just make sure you project just a little, thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
I appreciate it.
So the kitchen window, the board may reasonably decide it should be repaired.
even a well-repaired sash would be difficult operationally on that kitchen window because of its placement.
But that has more to do with the design of the interior than the exterior.
Mhm.
So you want me to redesign my kitchen to repair a window?
I didn't say that, did I? Just tell you the way it is. On the board, what is it?
Yeah, if you're curious about that, the kitchen was moved to a different room. So the kitchen was previously on the north side of the house, it was a narrow galley kitchen. And it was moved to a different room, so it could actually be a significantly larger kitchen, so it was originally, I don't know, less than 7 feet wide. And now it's about 13 by 13 feet, so that was again, the whole house has been completely reconfigured from when I purchased it, so. But not that that's particularly relevant, other than that. Removing my kitchen to repair a window is not very practical.
So it sounds to me like the only thing that Blake is recommending for replacement are the basement windows, which are the section 1 windows here in his letter.
It sounded to me like most of them, he thought that replacement was a reasonable option.
I think he may have said that they could be repaired or replaced in some instances.
But the code is saying if they're
Code is-
reparable, you have to repair them.
Again, I'm saying I'm trying to rehabilitate them, so not following the preservation standards, rehabilitation standard. Do what I'd have to do to keep the character of the house unchanged, make it functional.
Unfortunately, the code doesn't make a distinction between
Mhm. Yeah.
rehabilitation and preservation.
I believe the code says here, following the rehabilitation standards. Of the Secretary of Interior.
Okay. So what, would you like us to take a vote?
Well, where are you at right now? So you have concerns about replacing all of them, which is in the application before you, and whether some of them make sense to keep. So I don't know where we need to go.
We have an architect that says that most of your windows, except for the basement ones that are in this section 1 that he describes, all the other windows are repairable, is what he's saying, or possibly repairable. So, and the code says that if it's repairable, you need to repair it instead of replace it. Very clearly, the village codes, that's what it says. So we can't really approve something that is repairable.
So is it in the building design standards document? The historic design standards document, that's what it
This is
says.
part of the Village of Pittsburgh Building Design Standards, page 120. It is referencing the Secretary of Interior standard for rehabilitation. But it is there.
But it's the village code, it's not exactly the same as the state code.
Well. Also say that fine with everything in there, that document in general is an advisory document. For guidance. It's not.
Covers not advice.
I can give you a citation. 210-20-9. Section A. So it is. For the Village of Pittsburgh. Historic and architectural building design standards are incorporated in this chapter of the code for the purposes of guiding development application review. And it says in the business districts.
That has nothing to do with theoretical historic preservation.
Well, that's the zoning code. It says it's for guiding development. So it, in my read of the code, it's, you read these. You take a look at this, it gives you recommendations. And then the question is, after you review this, review the Secretary of Interior standards, review the under standards. What's the gist of this? What's the sniff test? Does this adversely impact the property? Or does this not adversely impact the property? So you have a whole pile of things you can consider. Each one in and of itself is necessarily required. It's a recommendation, suggestion. And then what's the big picture? Is it adversely impacting the property? That's your overall review standards. It's my thought. But if the next step is to get more input from Mr. Held, maybe it makes sense to have him come in and you guys can ask him questions.
I think so. As he's got a report that says things are repairable, and we're kind of, our hands are tied. We have to adhere to the code that says if something is repairable, we have to recommend repair.
He's familiar with our guidelines. I mean,
Yeah.
Obviously.
The thing I wanted to clarify is that when we give the list of evaluators to residents, they are not endorsed by the village. They're who we've worked with in the past and are willing to work with residents, but they are free to go and get other evaluations.
Yeah.
But the code is to bill us, that it's not at a cost to the resident, and everyone just happens to like Blake, so. It was earlier mentioned that he's with the village, that's incorrect.
Yeah.
He's just,
And
Someone
you have
that they
other
can choose from.
options.
Yeah, well, he was acting on the village's behalf, not my behalf, which is, and he made that abundantly clear to me when he came over and talked to me. He's making his recommendations on the village's behalf based on what your review standards are. And he was previously a member of this board, he previously lived in the village, he's clearly an excellent resource, and he's an architect, he's an knowledgeable guy, I've known him for a while, I've hired him for some of my interior details like 15 years ago. So I'm familiar with him, but I'm not exactly buddies with him.
The fact that he is familiar with the project, he's already reviewed it once.
Right.
It makes sense to have him review it again and just be more clear, because right now it's so vague. Yeah, you might do this, you might do that, it'd be nice to get some firm decisions about whether or not some of these windows are.
For example, nowhere on this report does he say what you stated in your write-up, which is that these windows were never designed to work with they don't have sashes, they never were operational in that way to
Yeah.
begin with. He doesn't have that on his report, and maybe that fact would change something. If-
Yeah, he mentions that there's problems with them. Of them, there are two that show, two that may be original windows. That show signs that they, could have, they had the pulleys there for the cords. So that's only two. The others are all have maybe wooden pegs or are some kind of, not an original window or some kind of, cobbled together something or other, so. But
Yeah.
anyway,
So the option to follow up is we can bring Blake in,
Well,
and
we,
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the
you-
onus of the applicant to reach
you
out
can
to
have
them,
Blake
yes.
come and take a look at your house again, and we can actually meet you there with him as well and have a meeting at your house in front of the windows with him. That's an option. You can get somebody else. That's another option.
okay, I can get people on the list, but, I think Blake he gave reasonable, he has the knowledge, he gives practical advice that's reasonable. So you're certainly, able to use him as an expert testimony, and yes, you can get him to do it, whether it's passed, you may have to, pass the expense on to me. But if you need more expert testimony, from him, then that sounds like that's the next step.
No, it's up to you though to get him to come. We can't do it.
It's a request of the board, the cost is still to the
Oh, okay.
village.
Yeah,
But
we
you're
still
still
pay
the
for it.
applicant, we're not gonna engage with whoever is your evaluator. Unless you wanna have them call into the next meeting, which you do it too.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the request is for me to ask him to come into the next meeting to talk to the board about his,
Unless you guys wanna meet on site, we've had that happen with the applicant recently for windows.
Yeah,
We had one board member go on site and Blake was there, I don't know if they were there at the same time, but at least they got some things cleared up and then they're gonna come to the next meeting.
so was that just walking around outside, or was that going inside the house, or what?
Yeah, I don't know what they did.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's up
it
to
was
Because
you.
really
It's
good.
up
I'm doing
to
a
you.
lot of renovations, so I'd rather not have people running around
Yeah.
inside the house.
No, it's up to you. It's your house, your application.
So if people wanna go around outside and take a look at things, it's some matter, I'm not, but anyway.
I mean, to me, the operability of the windows makes a difference. Like you were talking about quality and I get that, but we can do a findings of fact that states these windows are not operable. Even if you repaired them, they would not be operable in the way that we in modern times think of a window as being operable. So I think that's a way of getting around or having a finding of fact that allows us to make a decision to replace rather than repair. If that's something that he can state, that Blake can help us understand, that these windows were never operable in the sense that we consider a window to be operable. And that repairing them isn't gonna make them more operable either. It's just gonna make them, nicer looking, but they're still not gonna work.
And without going, a complete rebuild of them and trying to keep the existing sashes is going beyond the repair, in my opinion. But that might be possible, but
Well, he might say, okay, you can repair them, but you're gonna have to, in order to make them operable. But you'd have to take the whole frame out and basically rebuild the window, and that's gonna change the look of the house. And then, then again, that's something that we would have to consider, like, we don't wanna change the look of the house. Maybe that is a worse thing than having replacement. I don't know. But, I mean, I think we need Blake to weigh in on those two options.
okay, that's fine. The other thing I would add about the argument about, having mismatched windows, Mr. Turner said they look identical. And I forgot to bring this up, but, they only function with, storm windows. And, as even Blake said, the appearance of the typical storm windows, that is a difference in, the appearance. And nobody likes the aluminum, triple track storm windows for appearance. They're not great for functionality. But in order to make these old windows even have some semblance of functionality, you gotta have a window screen And you gotta, to get some reasonable chance of sealing them up in the winter, you gotta drop the glass down.
Right.
Now it's kind of interesting, because 4 of these windows are on the south side of the house. There was one, I put a photo in there of it, was showing a whole bunch of deterioration of peeling paint and so on. One of the things that, I wanna mention there, and I think it's the last photo in there. The reason why it's peeling badly is because of the storm window. So it's on the south side of the house, and it doesn't even have a screen in it at the moment, it just has the glass down. When you get hot summer days, hot heat, beating on the window, it causes pin failures and it's causing other things to fail. Windows that aren't quite so beat up, typically, not had the glass down in the summer. That one just never had a screen. So everything about, repairing them, supposedly repairing them, putting new storm windows in there, and whatever all that entails, I don't see that as a recipe for long-term functionality that I'm gonna be happy with for 10+ years. So anyway, I'll just some other stuff to put in there, but next step is to get Blake to comment to the board, come into a meeting. I don't find that unreasonable.
All right.
If you need more members here, you need more members here.
We don't, I mean, we can take a vote with 3, but
Well, if it's gonna be 2 to 1 or 1 to 2,
yeah. I think it's gonna be hard, given what the code says, for us to vote yes, for any of us to vote yes.
okay.
If you give me a second, Justin, I'll just tell you when the next meeting is. May 18th.
Maybe,
Yeah.
okay. Is there any chance we can try to resolve this sooner, or?
But we have 3 members here, if they want to do a special meeting, but without our 2 others, I couldn't tell you anything ahead of that. So I could get back to you if you'd like, I'll just do a poll to the board, that's no problem. But you should communicate with Blake first to see what his schedule is like, so if he's doesn't get to you in a couple weeks anyway, then you might end up just aligning with the next meeting.
Okay, so basically the commentary for Blake is, if he needs to refresh his opinions on this, he can come back and take a look.
Clarify his opinion.
Clarify his opinion, yes.
He'll probably email me the minute you ask him for another evaluation. He usually just says, can I bill you guys again? Since there was already one, and I will direct him to the recording. And everything was talked about.
Okay.
The table?
Yeah, I make a motion to table this application pending a conversation and re-review of Lake Health.
Second,
Member McRae,
Yes,
member Rude,
I,
member Torres,
Aye.
motion passes.
Oh, thank you for considering everything.
Thanks, Justin, sorry. All righty. Okay, all right, 18 North Main.
All right.
You should have done you first.
Sorry
About that.
So I had to stand on my back.
Yeah, windows are tough.
So yeah, hi, I'm Bill Curry, and I own the building across the street. I bought the building in 2001. It was a triple, I rehabbed it into just a solo office for myself. We did a lot of renovations at that time. I think Jeff, you were hanging around when we did that. But in any event, we did a lot of renovations, including the door that I want to replace. The door is not historically significant whatsoever. That was a little porch. It basically had one of those screen doors on it. And then there was an area where you took your boots off and then went into the actual building. And that was prior to that time. That's when I bought it. That's how it was. So in my infinite wisdom, I decided, well, I could use some more extra space for my foyer. So I created a larger foyer by taking out the indoor wall, putting in the door that I want to replace now. The door is not even close to historically significant. It was made in 2001. It's fallen apart. It's rotted from the middle. I'm barely keeping it locked going at this point in time. So I'm asking the board to allow me to put in a fiberglass door. And then it's, we have a nice example here. For a number of factors, just confidentiality in the legal office. I think they're more secure than wood doors at this point in time. Safety for my employees because they're often there at the end of the night. And again, from a safety standpoint, I think it's important. They're longer lasting, more energy efficient, and we know in this day and age, energy efficiency is really important. And it looks the same as the wood. And lastly, which I'm not sure you guys all buy into, but you really can't see the door from any public right of way. The only right of way is an easement that I grant to the village and to the town. So that's where I'm at. I hope you guys agree with me because I think it makes a lot of sense all the way around. It's gonna look a lot nicer. I don't know if you took a look at the door. You know,
Is this one that you've got circled here?
pardon me.
It's this one that you've got circled?
Yes, yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly
it
the
looks
same.
almost exactly the same.
It sure is, yeah.
So it does look like it's kind of peeling and
Oh my God, it's
scabby a little bit,
yeah.
but could it be repaired?
No. Seriously, I could show you how it's
Not
the
a useful-
interior where the lock is rotting. I can't even put anything in there anymore.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's rotted. And if you look at the window as well, it's total replacement.
What do you guys think about the fiberglass, though? I think the code says that you have to replace it with the like for like and materials.
It does say on page 58, non-wood door may be acceptable for rear or side doors.
Oh, okay, all right.
We had told the applicant, like, when you do the pedestrian walk, I don't know if you.
Oh, it's back there.
It's back there, yep.
Yeah.
So it's not the front door, it's the side.
Under the tree, yeah.
Which I made into my office door because of the parking. I thought it was better. Because of course, it's a little dangerous. So,
You all would have had to take a walk in the library parking lot if you wanted to see
Yeah,
from that.
yeah, okay.
This is from our code book.
Yes, that's page 58 of the village historic design standard.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? you
So it
guys?
is not historic, and that does say historic doors should be retained, but this is not historic, because it was put in later.
Mhm.
You know, we always prefer to see a wooden door. It's just like, but on the other hand, it's not that different than the non-wooden signs that we approve in a way, because it's something that's replaceable in the future. And it doesn't face the street.
Yeah,
I think we've approved as far as approval.
we have,
Fiberglass.
yeah, we've been just last time, the one on Mid-Century House. Yeah.
So it's,
So as far as the layout, like the panels and in the window, it's all gonna be generally the same.
Exactly the
Two
same.
panels below the window.
That's why I chose that door,
Oh.
because it was exactly the same.
Are you gonna replace the sign exactly the same as? it was?
yes, actually, it's gonna say Prairie Law Group. Because two of my sons are with me now about that. Yeah, it's gonna be.
Does he need to come in for a
It
separate,
was to you all.
does he need to come in for a separate application for that, if he's just
Sorry?
replacing? Does he need to come in for a separate application on the signage if he's just replacing it, the sign, like if he's got gold lettering on there?
Yeah, it's-
Be the same letter.
It's the same.
Yes. Trying to make it nice and simple.
No other objections.
I have no objection, make a motion.
I make a motion to approve this application as presented.
A second,
Sorry, I wasn't prepared. With your names, even there's only three of you. Member Root,
Aye.
member Torres,
Aye.
member McGray,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Findings of fact on that one, just to make sure, so this is not a historical door. And so we're okay with replacing it, also the fact that it's fiberglass is okay because it's a side door, not a front door. And that he's also going to replace the sign on the new door, like for like the sign that he has with slightly different lettering, but the same design.
And layout of panels and windows is the same.
Yeah, the layout is the same.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you, carry back.
We just have to get a permit with Steve now.
Yeah, yeah, I've got a.
Okay.
Running around doing this.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Also,
Findings of fact on the first thing. So,
Learned a lot.
yeah. I like how you jumped in and said it's not a historical door. That was good. So the sign is appropriately sized for the space. It's a nice design.
this is for 7 Shane, correct?
Yeah, this is 7 Shane, yeah. The sizing of the lettering versus the white space on the sign is appropriate.
The lettering gives it depth.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, so appropriate placement
Architectural feature.
yeah.
and has existing lighting.
That's existing, like,
And it's within the guideline of size based on.
size, yeah, based on the space.
The closed caption didn't capture, it doesn't affect the architectural features of the building, is that what was said?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. There.
Was that mumbling?
Maybe.
Just too far away.
Yeah, everyone was whispering today.
Need a bigger-
Sorry about that.
We hold on to our packets for the fountain rod.
I would love to not print that one again.
That's a lot of.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate you. If we have another written evaluation, of course, it would just be added to the next packet as a page, so I wouldn't have to print everything.
Yep. All right. Are we approving these minutes?
Jeff actually has a report to go over with you, know, are we waiting for the full board?
What
to
happened?
Authorize Dan to sign it? Okay.
Is somebody acting chair tonight?
Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
Is acting chair?
Okay.
So, this is the report that's required to avoid the application of an inch and a half deep,
Yes.
energy, whatever. When you replace siding,
Yeah, the new
Right. which
energy requirements are rated.
Steve needs this report in order to not wire that.
Yes, got it. Yes, I read
That
it.
applicant is waiting for.
Yeah. All right, so just sign it.
Can you just,
No, he's emotional.
Oh.
yeah, it
Oh.
has Dan's name on it, so.
All right, I'll fix that. Okay,
Yeah,
so.
if I can, I can put your name on it, as acting chair. Not.
Can I just cross it out right here?
Sure.
Yeah,
Or not.
okay, so I make a motion to approve this report as written. You
I
guys get a
second
chance to
it.
read it? Yeah.
I did.
okay.
I read it.
Member McRae,
Yes.
member Torres,
Yes.
member Root,
Yes.
motion passes. I'm sorry, whose second was that? You, member McRae? Or was it, I wrote down your name. Did you
I
second?
think-
Oh,
I think-
Jim second.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I didn't hear it correct. Thank you. Just making sure I
Okay.
heard correctly.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you want to take it, Jeff, or want me to stand up here?
No, just.
Right, sure.
Steve.
Thank you. In the minutes, yes, and I think everyone was there, so, yes. You could go for it.
All right. With regard to Historic Preservation Board regular meeting minutes, Monday, March 16, 2026. I make a motion to approve the minutes as written. Did you guys get a chance to read them
Yes.
beforehand?
Yeah.
Do you need a minute to read them?
Any changes?
I know there's a spacing issue on page 2. And my computer keeps printing in ledger paper, I'm so sorry, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, you need to make a motion for each separate one, right?
It's
Oh,
the-
for all of
no, that's, there should only be 2 minutes,
Oh, it's
only
okay.
March,
Oh,
right?
yeah, it's okay. It's
Okay.
only-
I know the size is deceiving.
Yeah.
The one, name two.
I made a motion. I'm waiting for a second.
To approve that.
To approve them as they are written,
I
unless
second
you,
it.
unless you found something wrong, which I didn't. Maybe you might have
I
spotted.
second
something.
it. I second-
Member McRae,
Yes,
member Torres,
I,
member Ruth,
Yes,
motion passes. And I think,
try printing them at 50%. If you can't get out of,
Ledger,
ledger.
I will try that. Member McRae, did you want to say something on the record about the training, the next training?
yes, I propose a special section of our upcoming training where a member Rude and I could go over the historic preservation conference that we attended and discuss the aspects of that conference that relate to the village.
Oh, that sounds great.
So, we had it nestled in some training dates into our yearly calendar. Every other month, like today would have been when we just didn't have a topic, so it looks like June 15th. Is the one appropriated. We talked about doing it at a lunch hour, if that worked for people, but it would be, everyone's schedules are so tight, so once you have something figured out for 1 hour, then we could do a poll on the best time, or if we could come in before the meeting or after the meeting. I just really want you guys to feel supported in getting your training.
I will be gone June 15th. I'll be out of the country, so
The next meeting then, or the following,
that doesn't seem too.
I mean, we
far
could
away.
do it in May, like before or after this meeting.
we could,
I
Go ahead.
prefer that. I have a hard time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
Getting
sooner
out.
better than later. When would be the next available
May
opportunity?
18th.
yeah, May 18th is the next meeting, if you think that's enough time for you and Jim.
I could do that,
Before or after?
Mail talk.
the 18th.
Yeah, before or after the meeting?
Oh, what do you think, Jim? Do you have a preference?
I'm retired, so I can come before, but
After
some
the-
folks have to work.
After might be a little easier
Okay.
for, as long as we don't have too many applications.
Yeah.
I don't think we
I don't want to
do.
wear people
Yeah.
out.
Oh,
you
I'm
know.
not gonna be here. Sorry. I'm out that week.
Okay,
All right.
We do better scheduling in person, so if this
Yeah.
needs to be offline, totally fine. So if also if you two would just like to speak, and if you have an alternative date, an auto meeting date, we can throw that out there too, to the board.
that might work better since I'll gone, I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we could do it before that, before the 18th. I think you're gonna be forgetting. Like,
Those first
wait
2
too long.
weeks of May are good for me.
Yeah.
Are you around?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be around. for
So
sure.
I'm all three of us, so we
11.
could just reach out to Dan and Maria.
11th or
Okay.
4th.
Yeah.
Say the time,
Okay.
and I'm okay at lunch meetings too, like if that works better for people.
That mostly will probably be virtual. I know getting to the village hall there for 1 hour is tight, so we'll be put it in the email too for Maria and Dan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and we may have some alternate by then too.
Yeah.
Participate. And we have to adjourn.
Oh. All right, somebody wanna make
Motion to adjourn.
I second the motion.
Member Torres,
Aye.
member McGray,
Aye.
member Root,
Aye.
motion passes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we are.